So you did just miss the mother of all battles. It was Great Britain versus the naval coalition of France, Spain, Portugal and the Papal States, and they pulled off probably the best coordinated amphibious invasion of Britain I've ever seen. We had the Spanish attacking from Dogger Bank, we had the French attacking from the Channel, the Papal States attacking from Dingle Bay, and then I think the Portuguese were in the north. The Portuguese fleets were entirely wiped out. In fact, most of the coalition's fleets were wiped out, but they bought enough time to land 80,000 troops in Britain and fully occupied the British. So Britain was forced to give up all of their colonies in the Americas. They were forced to give up Tortuga, which was a victory point, and also Calais and Malta. So it really was the humbling of Britain there. It was impressive. If only you had coastal forts, yeah. And the new naval system. I suspect the new naval system would have helped a little bit, because the naval coalition did lose like 100 heavy ships and Britain lost barely any. But yes, coastal forts would definitely have helped with slowing down the landing and buying more time to attack. But then again, that's true. Portugal would have had marines, which would have counteracted it. And Spain. There's a new naval system coming? Yeah, it's receiving a fairly hefty update, including the ship disengagement. If someone wants to find the link to the dev diary, then please do link that, because it is worth a read, especially if you like naval warfare in this. Or just naval mechanics in general. It's not just how ships work, it's how ships interact with the land stuff. That's all being changed. It's pretty cool. And now the same naval coalition is fighting against the Japanese and their pirate confederacy vassal march. These guys. So I'm kind of waiting for the naval coalition's naval power to actually arrive, because they lost all of their ships, built them all, attacked the British a second time with 100, having waited for Britain to go bankrupt, and that's how they were eventually able to put the knife well and truly in Britain's back. But Britain did not go down without a fight, despite the fact that they were pretty much fully occupied. I think Lambert counted it to be 5,000 words. Crikey, that's half a dissertation. Unfortunately for the Japanese side, they're kind of stuck at minus 35% war score. It doesn't look like they'll be able to force any peace deal. They need to get to the minus 50 to start stab hitting. And then in other news, Russia and the Ottomans are not allowed to do any offensive wars this session because they've been naughty last session. Austria was supposed to be allied to Britain. I do wonder how Austria's reputation is now going to suffer because they did not do a thing. They were very, very good at protecting Lake Balaton. They had 40,000 troops watching over the lake and making sure that no monsters rose up out of it, but that is all that they did during that war. Sweden is not here. Andalusia's currently got a substitute. Ethiopia's protection was lifted, so Tunis, the Mamelukes, Andalusia have all been carving it up between them. Hindustan's been busy taking out some of Pasai to increase their trade income, pushing some more trade from Malacca up to Bengal and then Coromandel. And actually, I think they're currently collecting Gujarat. Pretty sure that's true. And it looks like the Timurids are taking a slice of that pie and moving it over into Hormuz, which is where... oh no, they're pushing it up into Persia, and that's where they're collecting. So I'm kind of intrigued. Who is making the most out of trade at the moment? Because we've definitely got a couple of players who would definitely be up there. It's under economy, isn't it? So at the moment, Hindustan is making the most out of trade, followed by the Ottomans, then the Papal States, Iran, Timurids, Hamburg. Ooh, Hamburg is way up there. I'll need to see how they're doing that. Milan, Netherlands, Spain, Russia. Surprised that Spain is not making more, but I suspect that's because Spain is losing their trade to other trade powers. Yeah. Oh no, they got 50% of the control here, and they are collecting. And only a little bit is leaving. And in fact, Genoa is only very slightly bigger than Sevilla. Although, at the moment, the Papal States and the Iberian powers are allied, so the Papal States probably don't want to be stealing too much money from them. That wouldn't stop me. The Netherlands aren't making as much as I think that they could be making, simply because they do not have any colonial ideas, so they're not getting merchants from colonial, nor are they able to really send out their light ships like a tangled web of money-making madness. And then Hamburg. How is Hamburg doing it? They only control 50% of the node. The node is worth 50, which is probably the highest value in the game. Sweden is also collecting, so is Prussia, though Prussia is not using a merchant here. They're going to be stealing quite a lot of money from the Baltics. How are they managing that? I guess it's mostly just trade from upstream. No, Prussia is sending them trade. So it looks like Hamburg and Prussia have some kind of deal. Is Hamburg paying out money? Yes. Hamburg is indeed paying out money to Russia and Prussia. So Russia and Prussia is probably feeding trade power to Hamburg, who is then able to manipulate the trade and make more money that way. Working on the dev diary until 1 in the morning, then continued at 8 when you got into the office. Yikes. I know you were saying it was a pretty long document, and it was. It was a hell of a read. It was good. What's the current player war? It is the Naval Coalition versus the Japanese. And the Naval Coalition's fleets just arrived. So remember, the Naval Coalition, when Japan declared this, was fighting Britain. Their fleets were kind of busy doing some other things. But now the war against Britain is over, and we are seeing this 100-strong stack of death and heavy ships has just arrived in the Java Sea. And the Japanese, I think, have just noticed that is Master Giles. But the question here is, have they brought any troops with them? Nope. So let's go flip over to Portugal's perspective. I would imagine would be the most interesting. Portugal still has most of their troops back at home. Spain is busy fighting rebels. France. Where is France's force? France is helping Spain out with their rebels. Then I suspect that Spain has a fairly large presence over in the Americas to take control of their territories there. Okay, so France has brought some troops. France is currently landing in Sumbawa. Currently uncontested. There are 30,000 Japanese over here on the side, but at the moment this is a pretty limited response by the naval powers. It doesn't look like Japan and Maguindao is really in a position to try and fight back. They've only got the 54 heavies against the 100 or so that the naval coalition has brought with them. Since we passed 1600 mark, who got global trade? That is a good question. We can go to technology, and then that, and global trade. Chitor. India. It actually went to Delhi. Oh no, Hindustan. Not as far north as I thought it was. Hindustan got global trade, so it's not that surprising that they're number one trade power right now. And actually, if we go to the institution map mode, we can see most of the world is trying at least to embrace it. And several places, probably the centres of trade, have already got it. Yeah, global trade tends to spread really, really quickly. Looks like most of Italy, or northern Italy, has already got it. It'll take a little bit longer to reach the colonies. But yeah, this one does spread quickly because marketplaces spread it, and more importantly, the centres of trade spread it. But there's no trade company, so nobody will be getting the sweet extra company goods produced that comes with that institution. Oh, is that how they become more valuable? I thought it was just the extra merchant. I changed in golden century, so it's based off of the institutions. I did not know that. Okay. So, institutions basically modify goods produced in trade companies. There is a trade company over here, although it's occupied. Base production plus 0.8. Is it the base production that gets modified? Plus 22.7 for trade companies. Gotcha. And yes, there is a battle about to occur. The Japanese are coming after the French in what I think is... Oh no, it's planes. 105 discipline versus 105. 4.8 morale versus 6.3. So the French morale is going to be showing through here. The Japanese thought they had the numerics here to pull this one out. They do have a better backline support. But that crazy French morale is just enough to do the damage and push the Japanese away. So the Japanese are going to need to come back with a bigger force and more troops. And I do wonder if Japan actually has that. Nope, that is their entire army. So they are going to be somewhat reliant on the Philippine army to come in as well. Not even being able to beat one small stack of French does not bode well for them. And there is the age of absolutism. Now countries like Prussia can really start to take off. And the Dutch, and... even more dangerously, the French. Manchu is dead. Sweden does exist. The Dutch. And then, yeah, France. So France is about to get even stronger. Where's Nobunaga? Dead. Probably. French morale still gives you nightmares. The thing I was impressed by was the fact that Britain had almost as much morale during that war as France did. Because they got the Great Captain event, which was giving them plus 20% morale as well. I'm actually a little bit surprised that Japan's army is as small as it is. Yeah, they can get up to 69 force limit. They just haven't been using it. Probably because of financial constraints. So where is all their money going? Oh, it's going to be reinforcement, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And wow, that's a bit of interest that Japan is paying off right now. How the hell did you go into that much debt? I guess Japan... Okay, I kind of see what Portugal is doing now. They probably noticed that Japan was losing money and was content to just sit on not owning Indonesia while Japan went into further and further debt to maintain their hold. Portugal, meanwhile, also losing money, but I doubt that they're as far into debt as they are. No, they're only 2 loans. Britain, meanwhile, went into 2 bankruptcies during the war. One after the other. Money is just a number, true, but not when the numbers aren't big enough. So 30,000 Japanese and Filipino troops coming in. Are there any further? They've got another 17,000 up there. The main fleet is currently parked here. They do control the northern coast. They could sneak in, drop some troops off here, and the French would never be any of the wiser, or even better in Calapa, because they shouldn't have any vision over that. Except they do. Why do they? Not sure. We'll have to work that out after this fight. So Japan is going in again. The Philippines are content to just sit there and watch. Oh no, here come the Philippines as well. 4.8 morale versus 6.3. 2.1 tactics versus 2.1. Discipline is exactly the same. I'm actually a little bit surprised that Japan doesn't have more discipline. 29,000 against 11,000. It doesn't look like they've brought quite enough troops. Sebastien de Fournay having a much better fire general. 5-1. Versus a 1-2. I think this is mostly Japan just having a really bad commander. However, they did manage to defeat the French, and they should go and chase up just to stack wipe them. The disadvantage, of course, the naval powers have here is they have to ship in all of their troops from Europe, whereas the Japanese powers just need to go from the north a bit. Although that's still a fair amount of space, but without Suez, it is a long freaking way out here. And the battles are going to be assisting, although there is still 0 war score from battles so far. But they do have it down to minus 37. So I do wonder what the naval powers are going to do. The other thing which is really irritating me is why does nobody ever blockade? It's such a powerful ability. And it's about to get even more powerful, because it's not going to take as many ships to blockade per development. You have this many ships just sitting here, blockade them, cause them some morale or war score, war exhaustion problems. War exhaustion reduces autonomy and also reduces trade income, which means that you can cripple their economy with more than it already is. Urgh! I think blockades are super hurtful, but maybe I'm wrong. It's also 0.1 monthly devastation. Yes, there is that too. Although devastation, I think, recovers a little bit too quickly. Because I remember blockading Ming for, what was it, 60 years? Blockaded Ming for 60 years, and they recovered from the devastation from that, which took 60 years to tick up to that level. In a year? Maybe 2? Although that is like a year ago now. I don't know if the devastation mechanics from blockades have changed. It looks... Oh no, that's just Majapahit moving some troops in again. Majapahit are a neutral party in this. Although Majapahit currently going up against Pasai. Trying to take a little bit more territory. Some of the ships moving there for a second, realising, nah, it was raining a bit. Didn't want to leave port. It's fine. Gaeldom! Let's go and take a look at the most awesome idea list. Or at least one of the most awesome. I love these. Chance of new air plus 50. Garrison size plus 25. Morale plus 15. Attrition plus 1. Siege ability plus 10. Stability cost and religious unity. Shock plus 15. Shock and also the morale is just such a potent combo. National manpower plus 10. Prestige plus 1. And then manpower recovery plus 10. I really like Gaeldom's ideas. They're cool. Especially early on, like I said. Get a decent number of cavalry and kapow. You do a lot of damage. Are there any other wars going on in the world? There's literally no other war going on. This is definitely a quiet session. I mean, we did have the massive showdown between Hindustan, Delhi, Mamelukes, Timurids, and... No, I think it was just them. Versus Tunis, Andalusia, and the Papal States last session. With condottieri from half of the world. And then we had the massive showdown against Britain, which was the European conflict, and now the Indonesian conflict, but... Yeah, not a lot going on. But then again, if we switch over to the player map mode, we can see that the majority of the world now is owned by players. So from this point onwards, the conflicts are going to be player conflicts. There's not many AI nations left to absorb. Germany being one of the few exceptions, but we have a very strong emperor who seems hell-bent on keeping Germany strong and divided so that they get as many bonuses from the HRE as possible.
Hello, Mordred.
Hello.
A couple of things that I thought I'd mention that people have asked to have passed on. One of them is Chemtrails is about to go and play as Mexico.
Who?
Spicy Siberia. He's going to turn into his colony.
Okay.
That's why he's been building up just one big colony rather than a bunch of colonial nations.
Okay.
Which I guess he will be able to form Mexico once he's independent.
Yeah,
and
I think
he's
so.
been selling and he's been selling off provinces to Yuan on the basis they said that they could have just declared independence and then and then Yuan would have allied in the independence war, but it's easier to just sell the provinces first. So
okay.
I said I didn't think there was a problem with that.
It's not against the rules.
We just realised. Yeah, we just realised we forgot to cancel the tributary beforehand. So there's a 5-year truce.
Oh, whoops.
Whoops.
Yeah.
But Spicy Siberia is now independent, I'm noticing.
Yep.
Cool.
So
is
he going to form Mexico or not?
No, he's going to form the best nation.
Texas.
You'll see.
I'm expecting Texas.
Guns! Hell yeah, brother. Dude, I see nothing wrong with this.
California hype. Is there a California tag?
Yeah, there is.
Is there? Huh.
There's a California, there's a Mexico. Like, if you click on him, there's like, I think it shows like a bunch that he can do currently.
Whoops, that's not him.